Hey, John. Hello and welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Teller podcasts. I'm Ed Charbeneau, and with me is John Bristowe. How are things going for you, John?
Good. I'm not talking to you from my iPad this week. My MacBook was repaired. It turns out I had faulty memory. So that was a first for me. First for the Apple genius I talked to as well. He said he'd never seen faulty memory before. So yeah, I got my logic board replaced, and now I'm talking to you through my regular machine, which is good.
Faulty memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it happened in the middle of an update, though? That seems weird.
No. For whatever reason, the hardware said, yeah, I'm going to have a nap. So yeah, it was just my machine was spontaneously rebooting on me for whatever reason. And I tried reinstalling OS, no good. So basically took it in, and we did a system diagnostics check on it. Apple has a bunch of utilities built in, macOS rather, has a bunch of utilities built in, and one of which is being able to do a self-diagnosis of the firmware and hardware, and then report those to a location. And so the guy had his iPad in front of him, and he said, "Yep, looks like your memory is faulty." So I'm like, "Yeah, there you go." So yeah.
Yeah, I had that happen to me years and years ago building a machine. But it was like during the initial OS install from day one.
I didn't install anything. I literally woke up, everything was working great. Woke up the next day, no thunderstorms, nothing. Just came up to my machine, then it started rebooting on me. I'm like, oh, that's odd. So yeah. I tried to diagnose that thing hard. Like I was going through kernel panics and log files and all that sort of stuff. I couldn't figure out what was going on. It was very bizarre. Turns out when you have unstable memory, programs don't like that.
Yeah, they're very hard to troubleshoot because you need a piece of software in your PC to analyze the memory, and generally, software runs within the memory. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah.
Like you can't really run the analyzer from within memory if the memory is corrupted.
Yeah, it's like, let's try and figure out what's wrong with the airplane while flying it. So
I think the tool that I used to use ran inside of like very low level memory. Okay. So it has to load like within like the first, like whatever, kilobyte of memory. So it has to be very like, it has to be a bootable thing. It can't be something you run within Windows itself. Windows already occupies that memory space. So you're kind of, OS X, whatever, OS 10.
Mac
Can't really
OS.
run, anything really. Yeah, Mac OS, Linux, any of those things, they occupy that memory already. So you can't really load like a proper OS. You have to load like a tool that can operate in that low level space. And even sometimes that's not good enough. So if you take it to a tech, they might have like a memory test unit. So they take the DIMMs or whatever they call them these days, the
RAM,
the RAM, the chips out, and then place them in a device that just tests the memory. And the memory tests are crazy too. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but they have to test like different patterns of usage for it to be a useful test. So you have to like shift. You have to do like a shift test, because what essentially can happen is you can have a bit that is being set next to another, and it can like bleed over, I guess. So like if you have like 111, and then you change the 0 in the middle, it might flip the one on the right side of it or the left side of it. So you have to like test all these really funky patterns. It's really in-depth stuff.
Yeah. So it's hard to take out the chip when the entire thing is a one logic board. So that's why they had to replace the whole thing. So so we're back up and running, baby. It's all good.
Amazing. Oh, have you heard of all the things that happened today, John?
Lots.
It is the .NET release candidate today. So .NET 6 release candidate 2 shipped just a few hours ago. I haven't personally had time to download it and try it yet, but it is live, and this is the go live release.
Cool.
So that means we are getting closer to the day, the big day. So it's October. November is the final release, the GA, general availability, and we should be good to go. You got C# 10 coming. Global using statements are in there. I noticed in one of the newer templates that I used the other day, there is a source generator that scans your code and creates a global using file for you, which I thought was kind of black boxy and weird, and might take some getting used to. So I was getting like an analyzer that was telling me like these using statements are declared somewhere else, and then it popped up a file that was like global.something.g.cs, and it was like it's like, oh, that's generated. So we're doing some code generation now. I don't know exactly what controls the generation part of that. I don't know if it sees you use it more than once, or if it's just like a whitelist of namespace. I don't know, but it does generate those things.
Cool.
Record structs. So there are some new additions to the record type. Record basically generated a class by default. So now you can use record to generate a struct as well. So that's a new thing in C#. Let's see what else. What other goodies do we have here?
Oh, there's lots.
Again, we got the global usings. I don't see where it doesn't talk about the autogen feature. Oh wait, here it is. So the Microsoft SDK adds several using statements in the global usings g.cs file.
I'm interested to know, because this is going back in the lore of .NET. Is there a comment in that file that says this file was generated by a tool?
I do see /auto-generated.
Auto-generated, yeah. Yes.
So I'm sure there is an autogen begin tag around there somewhere.
That's a sad day because that was the end of no many, like I always pulled that one out as a joke. That was a go-to joke on stage,
Yeah, it's one of those things that should be in the Twitter profile.
Sure.
The end of, what is it called? The end of the, it's like an end of the world like satirical Twitter account. Have you seen that one?
Oh, okay. No.
Oh, you haven't seen this? Okay, I gotta find it. gotta find
Oh
it.
no.
I think it goes under a different name. It's like Neighbors Wi-Fi or something, but they changed the theme of it.
Cool. Yeah, so for those folks who don't know, .NET had this long-standing joke. Anytime you had a file generated, if there were UI files for WinForms or some things like that, pictures of the end, is that this
Pictures of
phrase,
the end.
this file is generated by a tool.
Yeah,
Nice.
this file is generated by a tool should be in pictures of the end. We gotta love that. These are hilarious, by the way, and some of it may be not safe for work, so I will quit scrolling. Okay. But it's not like terrible, but stuff we probably don't want to stream.
Okay.
But there's some pretty hilarious stuff in that Twitter feed. Oh yeah, like this is just gold. Like the Bud. The Bud Light Capri Sun style package.
Let's be honest. Bud Light is kind of like apple juice. So
anyhow, we got way off topic. That's what the auto-generated thing reminds me of. File scoped namespace declaration.
Mm-hmm.
Super handy. I want to see how some of the new templates evolve. There was some Twitter back and forth the other day with myself and Steve Smith, R. Dallas, about some of the new templates because they're so simple that they look like they may be leaning towards bad practice again. So you get like, you get rid of your using statements, you get rid of your top level closure, and then they've gone as far as to do away with like let's take a web API for example, the create the part where you create your dependency injection stuff and then configure your services. Like the methods are gone, so it's just like all the code just in a file with no proper closures around anything, and it looks very like back in the day when I did like VB script and HTML. It was all one page and there was no subroutines and the variables were named X and Y and 1, 2, 3. We're heading back in that side of the pendulum, and it's scary to me.
All right.
Some more pattern recognition for pattern matching. I think this is part I was talking about, the web templates. Like this is super cool. The what do you call it? The shorthand minimal APIs. Minimal APIs look very cool. But this is what I was talking about. This program CS, like we have a comment, add services to container, and then another comment, configure the pipeline. These should be methods, guys. I'm sorry, but they should be methods. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is just bad. I don't like it.
Okay.
I'm nitpicking, but it's it threw me off the first time I saw it. I was like, why are we doing this? And where did my old man cheese go?
CodeGen is very difficult.
This isn't code generated. This is the file new project template for.
That's what I'm saying. It is code generated.
API.
Like what I mean by that is to stub out programs to generate code in that format where you have a set format. You're like, we're always going to emit this, like snippets, right? That's a sense of code generation, right? It's terribly hard to get right because they're not contextualized, meaning they don't really know how they're operating, what the programmer's intent is. They're just like, look, this is the generic template for most folks. This is good enough. Most folks, I would say, they use snippets for the first time when they're just learning something, but I don't know if they use snippets all that often. They may use it for like programmatic constructs like for loops and while loops. I use them all the time for that, but I don't use it for high level stuff. Like once this code is written here, I'm not going to really touch it again.
Yeah. If I found it a little hard to navigate myself. The going joke was I suggested they add regions instead of these quotes.
Regions are bad. Come on.
This is bad use of quotation.
Yes. Okay.
Of comments, dude. I mean, if this is the beginning of something happening and there's 3 lines of code where that thing happens, and then this is the beginning of like some other odd lines of code happening to do the same procedures, they should be methods. That's just,
you know what's funny? Richard Lander is probably going to watch. He won't watch this. But if you are watching this, Richard, I apologize. We're nitpicking the generated code for your really good announcement around the release candidate 2 for .NET 6.
See,
why is this comment here?
You keep saying generated, but this isn't quote generated code. This isn't like the web, or this isn't like the analyzers like generated code. This is like,
did you write this
template file new project template code?
Did you write this program?
Where before these were defined as methods.
I'll wait. The answer is no.
Kind of conflated.
Generated.
They're not generated from another source.
All right, just keep going. We're not going to agree. Keep going.
Wrote them as a template. Templates and generation, two different things.
People are bored. People are going they're going to duck streams now.
They're watching the chickens. So more of the same. Lots of good stuff coming.
Nullable, always good.
Nullable's great. If you start with it from the beginning and don't try to add it in after the fact. I suggest that happens for most people. Don't try to go add it after the fact.
My question mark key is broken.
You add it later on, you're going to get a lot of angry underscores in your project. So that's .NET. And then we had ASP.NET Core as well. Ship a bunch of updates. So lots of good.
What's new? Just stick to the what's new section. It's just up. It's just up there, right? Bang, there. Native dependencies support Blazor WebAssembly apps. Minimal API updates. All right, no more to say.
So native dependencies support Blazor WebAssembly. Do you know what that means, John? Do you? That is such a
yes.
Cool
I understand what this means. Yes.
So we can run just like C++ assemblies in a Blazor WebAssembly app, so we can like p-invoke those things. So that's really cool. So if you have another stack that compiles down to WebAssembly, you can interop with that code. This means we can use Rust. We can use Rust to build our Blazor apps now. How cool is that?
Sure.
Maybe even Go. I think Go compiles to WebAssembly, doesn't it?
Look, just because I've done a bit of Go recently doesn't mean I'm a Go guy. So
a Go guy. Maui also. Yep. Maui is release candidate 2. This one is going to ship in. It looks like they're saying first quarter. The release candidate, okay, yeah, and the GA in second quarter 2022. Okay. So they pushed this off a little bit. If you haven't caught the announcement on that yet, Maui is still coming. It's just coming a little bit later in the year next year. So they've added some new components and new shiny UI things. Basically, they're just continuing the amazing work that they're doing on this. And looks like they're doing some performance tuning and so on. So
I mean, let's be fair. To be honest, these guys are always going to trail other frameworks and such. Like they're always gonna be a little bit later to the party, and that's fine because I think what they're doing is they have much more dependencies on other stacks like iOS and Android and things like that, right? Yeah. So yeah.
And then, of course, Telerik UI shipping components for the Maui ecosystem as well.
Cool.
So that's very cool. We have components coming out, or they're actually already out in preview, so you can check those out. And
congratulations,
then,
that's awesome.
Thank you. We've got new templates. This is brand new. So you used to have to add these things. They are going to be part of Visual Studio 2022.
I'm not feeling that logo. I'm not feeling that logo. I don't know what that is. It's like
that's familiar, like doesn't it?
It looks like a. Reminds me of like. Well, it reminds me of sitting in an HR meeting where people are talking about like Venn diagram crossovers and stuff. I don't like it.
So I'm gonna throw you under the bus like you did me. So David, if you're watching, don't mind John complaining about your logo, John.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't feel it. Unless what would be cool is if they go with the Maui theme and they start using like native flowers of Hawaii, right? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's not like cultural appropriation or something. We get
come on, geez.
People at
whatever.
I don't know.
Flower.
I don't know anymore, John.
Flower.
I don't know anymore.
All right.
Visual Studio Visual Studio Code.
Yeah.
Not 2022, but the actual VS Code.
Yes. Yeah, latest update 6.61. These guys are going like gangbusters, which is great. Lots of various fixes and features and things like that. Nothing out of the ordinary here. So yeah, I think for me, I'm working on a VS Code extension right now. So platform specific extensions is meaningful to me. But for others, obviously, there's going to be features that are going to pertain to you. So lots of images and stuff in the article. So if you're interested in what's new, you can go check it out.
So this is an interesting one here. Jupyter Notebook improvements
Yes.
in Visual Studio Code. So
Yes.
I have thing I've been saving up here. And
Oh,
I'll
okay.
move it over. So on top of all of these really cool things, the Jupyter Notebook part of Visual Studio Code may be coming to Visual Studio as well. So I saw this in the ML.NET updates this week.
Yes.
So in Bree's post, she talked about the possibility of having a notebook editor in Visual Studio because people were asking for this feature.
Mm-hmm.
So they added it as an optional extension right now. And they're taking feedback right now to see if this is something that people would like to have in Visual Studio. But it basically attaches like a tab here where you can create your notebook, edit it, and run it all within Visual Studio. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing that people have to remind themselves about extensions is that they can be shared through what's called the language service protocol, which is the way in which your client and server communicate with each other. So if your client is a certain ID like Visual Studio, and you have a remote process, which is your language server, in this case, Juniper Notebooks, right? They can communicate via an IPC channel, for example, and that language server can be shared across a variety of IDEs, Sublime Text, Atom, Visual Studio Code, etc. And so if you build it once using this protocol, you can share it across a variety of IDEs using new clients. So that's probably, I'm guessing, what they've done.
Yep. It looks very nice. There's been updates to the model builder and they keep tweaking this tool. It's really amazing what they've done with this model builder tool. If you haven't used it yet, you don't have to be a data scientist to use the tool. Maybe use it successfully, but to actually like go in there and tinker with it, just some basic knowledge is enough to get you through to a completed and built model, which is totally amazing because I'm not a data scientist, but I find this stuff fascinating. So it's really neat. And then the addition of the interactive notebooks on top of it is also very cool. So just jumping off of
sure.
And it is Jupyter, right? You said Juniper.
Yep. Yeah,
I was wondering if I had it
Jupyter.
wrong.
No, okay. It's I was going to make the joke of this model. It was generated by a tool, but whatever. So stole my thunder. So yeah, lots of new things coming in VS Code.
Speaking of VS Code, I found this really awesome post. This is all from today, by the way. This, like everything we just talked about, has just happened this morning. What if you could use Visual Studio Code as the editor of
your DevTools?
In the editor in your browser instead of DevTools? This is really awesome. I like this idea. I think it's really cool. This is similar to the Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code, but Visual Studio live preview that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And I demoed during our Telerik webinar. So Visual Studio Live Preview does something similar to this, but this is now for Visual Studio Code, and it works kind of on the inverse. So you go from your dev tool to Visual Studio rather than from Visual Studio to your dev tool. That makes sense. But Christian Heilman did an amazing video overview of what this actually means, and we can walk through the screenshots here as well.
Sure.
So you go into Visual Studio, or no, sorry, you go into Edge, and you enable this experimental feature. This is on the Canary build. So you go into here and you say, I want to open source files in VS Code. And then if it recognizes that you're working on something that is localhost or on a local file, it will then prompt you to set where is that folder coming from on disk? So you're like, okay, I open this project wherever, set the folder. It's going to give you a file browser. You tell it where it lives. And then it has kind of like two-way access to that project you're working on. So when you click on, say, the CSS file in your browser, it comes up in Visual Studio Code, not just in your IDE, not just in your browser, but in your IDE as well. And both of these things are now synced together. So if I make like a color change here, it's reflected on disk. And if I make a color change here, it's reflected in the browser, and it's real time editing in the browser. So
yeah, I seem to remember Chrome did something like this. They didn't build it into Chrome, but there was a project that did something similar. I cannot remember the name of it right now.
You're right.
But
yeah. I think it was
called, it's a good idea.
Code Spaces or something like that. I know GitHub has a Code Spaces too, but there was like a Code Spaces thing that was built into Chrome as well.
Yeah. The idea is that you have,
it had an IDE integration.
Yeah. So the idea is you have
write files
side
back
by
to
side.
disk.
Yeah.
So the Chrome version of this was more trying to get the browser to be your IDE, where this is just setting up like a two-way communication channel between the two. But this is really cool. I think it has some legs, and I'd like to play with it. Actually, I might go actually install the Edge plugin the Canary version of Edge and enable this just so I can try it. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yep, that's good. I like that.
State of CSS is coming.
Oh, good.
I know this is one of your favorite things to do, John, is take surveys and read results from surveys. So that's coming. We'll give you an update once this is complete. But if you want to take part in the survey, it is stateofcss.com. Just go to stateofcss.com, test your CSS knowledge against their survey. It actually kind of is like a twofer here. Like they're asking you what you use and what your knowledge base is. And then it also gives you kind of a scale of where you fit against the other people who have completed the survey. So it's like your skill set matches up with 55% of the people that have already completed the survey. So it's kind of it gives you a little bit of feedback on where you are versus the community. And then
so it's like a CSS IQ test?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
All right.
Pluralsight does this stuff. Have you ever seen that on Pluralsight? You go on
there. I've never run their tests. I just watch their videos.
Oh, yeah. You can go on there and kind of test your skills and see how you fit.
I don't want anyone to know how. I don't even myself want to know how ignorant I am. So I would rather not. I'd rather live in ignorance.
I don't think you would do that bad, to be honest. I think you're selling yourself short. I did the same thing, took the tests, and it was in the 98th percentile on most of them.
Look, so Ed, I don't need to know how dumb I am. All right, I already can tell. Just looking in the mirror, I'm like, look, I'm not the smartest guy here. So yeah, I don't need a test to tell me that.
Well, anyway. I think that's a good segue to bring things down a notch, John. I think we need to dumb things down for just a minute. And I know it's your favorite segment of the show. The obligatory can it play Doom?
All right.
Because it's the best segue, or what is those things? Transition screen ever.
Sure.
You gotta have the stinger. You gotta have the can it play Doom stinger. It took me all of 6 seconds to build that. I mean, I know that's hard to believe because it's so amazing, but it did take me like a coffee break, like a sip of coffee break to make that.
Wait a minute. This is Doom plus Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. So somebody took Doom and I think this is more of a mod than a can it play Doom, but they took and they modded Doom to make a kind of a mashup of of Doom, so you can play
oh my God,
Zelda in first person. How awesome is that? I mean, 2 amazing games in one.
We're kind of watering the definition of awesome. I think this is okay.
All right. So maybe we can one up this. I mean, No pun intended on that either. Nintendo 1-up.
Yeah.
If you haven't had enough of Can It Play Doom today, I've got another one for you. This one is called Tweet to Doom.
All
and
right.
Basically what this is, you tweet commands.
Oh my god.
I'm trying to break John if you haven't noticed.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Wow. That's awesome.
So there is a screenshot of your current position, and then you tweet you tweet the command you would like to perform, and then you get the next frame.
Wow.
This is like a massive multiplayer, but crowdsourced, I guess, crowdsourcey version of Doom. Crowdsourced playing of Doom.
Yeah. That's funny.
This is awesome. I think this is so cool. So it's up on GitHub. It's on GitHub in case you want to, I guess, fork it or contribute to it. And it has like all of the commands here. What you can tweet to Doom. But I mean,
that is funny.
This is pretty awesome. I like this.
This is actually quite funny.
Yeah, this took some imagination to come up with this, and then so it's Doom running on Twitter. I mean, we've ported Doom so many places. Why not Twitter? Because what does Twitter need besides...
after we die out as a civilization, this will be when the aliens land and they do the archaeology on the rust encased hard disks. They're going to find, this is the last thing they'll see we were able to achieve as a society.
There will be nothing left but Twitter and Alexa skills playing Doom with each other.
Yeah, I know. Wow.
So if you didn't catch that, chat, I'm instructing everyone to go create an Alexa skill now to read and reply to tweet to Doom.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because that's something we need. We need that desperately in this day and age. Don't solve global warming. Create an Alexa skill.
Yes.
To go play Doom for us.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
So back to some serious serious news.
Yes.
Parsing JSON is a minefield. This looks like a blog post, John.
It is. It's an old blog post, but it always makes me laugh. I've read this a couple of times, and JSON, I use it a lot. I know folks who are watching this stream use it a lot. This is JSON at the best of times for a parsing algorithm is, for a simple description, can be a nightmare for parsing. And it's relevant for me these days because I'm writing a parser myself for a language, and I just find it hilarious. This, by the way, is what Douglas Crawford had on the back of his business cards, the actual JSON specification. It looks simple, but it turns out that parsing this sucker is really, really nightmarish. So yeah, this whole article goes through all the sort of workarounds and caveats and compliance and, variations of compliance and tests and things like that. Like, it's hilarious when you scroll through. You're like, oh my God, like, just the amount of work, just the amount of things that folks had to kind of support. It all has to do with string parsing, obviously, because most of JSON is string parsing. In fact, all of it pretty much is. But just turns out when you take away types, things are hard to discern. So there's lots of tests and a matrix and things like that. So yeah, I always like to reference this. So you think you're going to write a parser, are you? All right, well, just take a look at how hard it can be. So there you go.
Yeah, something tells me that XML is not any easier to write a parser for.
Well, the thing about XML is that it is well structured. So you can throw it out. You can throw it out and say, look, if your tags don't match, it's invalid immediately. You can throw it out immediately. Whereas with you get some subtlety in JSON when you're describing things like objects that are serialized in a certain way, what key value pairs are allowed, et cetera, et cetera. So it can be a little bit dicey. So yeah, I just thought it was fun.
Truthy.
Yeah, this one's funny. So generics are coming to Go, and this is basically a library to produce Boolean tests and helper functions for determining whether things are true or false. And the funniest part of this, you may look at this and say, okay, it's using generics and haha, great. But what's funny, the part that made me laugh was if you scroll down to the FAQ section, it basically says, oh God, this is the correct reaction. Yeah, so basically this is an exemplar of generics within Go. So Truthy is a library. It's not meant to be super serious, but Truthy is a library to try and demonstrate Go and its support for generics, which is coming.
Anything in here in regards to JavaScript, but I think there's a JavaScript library that's similar to this.
Yeah,
it's basically like I've seen on NPM. There are some really like ridiculous packages on there. That's like, is it 0?
Is computer on?
It's like
always returns true.
Is it 0 function that returns true or false? Like,
my two favorite APIs ever were from BOS. One was is computer on, and the other one is CPU on fire. And they just returned Booleans. So
Rancher desktop sounds like
no. Well, maybe it is. It's sort of like yeah, exactly. So the thing about what's happened with Docker and people having to pay for it and all that sort of stuff is obviously ruffled a few feathers. So this is a I think open source and free version of supporting containers and being able to support Kubernetes for deployments, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, something kind of out there for people to use if they wish to use an alternative. So there you go.
Interesting. Yeah, my kids play a game called Slime Rancher or something like that. That's why it sounded gamey to me. Cake.
Yes,
I'm down for Cake.
So Cake is a build system based on C# used for .NET applications. We use it at Octopus. We like it a lot. And it's another way of writing build files, but you're using C# basically. And so 3.1 has been released. It's got a bunch of new fixes and features and highlights and stuff. .NET 6 is now supported. So you can leverage all the C# 10 features, et cetera, et cetera. Support for Visual Studio 2022. Lots of stuff. So
we're using C# in place of,
I guess, make files. That's why it's called Cake. It's like make, but Cake.
What is make using? Is it a Python or is it?
Make is a text description.
It's just a
format.
It's kind of its own thing. Okay.
It's its own nightmare basically. So
its own nightmare.
Would you prefer death by strangulation or death by gun? I don't know. I mean, it's like this. Yeah, make files on the surface are fine. There's nothing really wrong with them. It's just when they get unwieldy is when things go. They become really hard to understand in Grok. So Cake is a C# sort of stab at sanitizing make files with a typed language like C#. There are other make systems. There are other build systems and build formats out there. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then Hurl, is this something based on curl then?
Yes, in fact they use the curl library for this. Yeah, so this is just basically a text-based format for testing out API endpoints. So you can create very easily HTTP requests using this, and it just uses curl underneath for basically throwing requests across the wire and inspecting results. So Hurl allows you to basically construct these requests very easily. As you can see, they're just text documents, and you just pass them over through to the CLI, and then it just returns results. So if you're doing testing, this might be a tool worth considering, especially the fact that it's using curl underneath, which is very robust. Built-in Rust, I know everyone loves Rust, right? So, yeah.
New kid on the block.
Yes, I like it.
New C++. All right, John. That is all the articles we have today. Thank you so much for contributing and stopping by.
Sure.
So on the Code It Live channel, we have a lot of interesting things coming up this week. So tomorrow is normally my Blazer Power Hour day. And no, not Back for Blood. That's downloading in the background so I could play
All
later
right.
on. I didn't mean to bring that up, but
It's
if
okay.
like
I don't
like
play games. I
the
haven't
shooters,
seen what. Yeah.
that's a new one. That's the predecessor to Left for Dead, Back for Blood.
Again, I
So
don't know what you're talking about.
like words, you're saying words.
It's like
I
listening to my
can't.
kids describe their music. So
I only play games I can tweet to. Um, I was saying tomorrow we're gonna deep dive into expression trees. So we have Layla from Layla Codes It. She's gonna join me, and then we have a .NET newbie, Alyssa Nicole. She's gonna join us both, and I'm going to share some of my expression tree knowledge with them and teach them what metaprogramming is and how it's used in Entity Framework. So starting at 10 a.m. Eastern time, we'll jump into that. They are two amazing guests, very brilliant and also very entertaining. So we should have a good time with such a deep dive topic, and I'm sure it'll be hilarious just with those personalities involved. So
cool.
Trying to take something that is very difficult to describe and still make it very entertaining, and
Oh yeah.
I think we'll be fine doing that. We've got that. Sam Basu's got his show as well on Thursday, and we have React Wednesday later in the afternoon tomorrow as well. And then just lots of great content here. So stick around. Let us know what you think of those .NET preview bits, and we will see you next week. Any final words, John?
Nope. Stay safe.
John's going to go play Tweet to Doom. I know
right.
that's exactly where he's going next. So eyeballs on your Twitter account. I know
Sure.
what you're going to be
All right.
working on.
Fine. Fair enough.
All right, John, you have an amazing week, and chat room, we'll talk to you soon.